Hello, cultists now and future. Welcome to another episode of our weekday lunchtime persuasion and influence tip show. We record new episodes of this every weekday at noon Eastern. Hopefully you can join us live. If you like what you see here, be sure to click follow and click like on the page so you can get updates when we do new episodes. But today's episode is about priming, which is a very useful persuasion tool. To back up a little and set the context for what priming is, the human brain is a pattern recognition computer made out of meat. And there are evolutionary reasons that this is the case. So if you imagine you are a proto-human ape-type creature, we're still living in the jungle, we're still susceptible to predators, we don't use tools or weapons yet. Your brain has evolved to sort of look at the environment for patterns, right? So a pattern is a recognizable sort of array of information. Recognizable is safe. Safe becomes boring. We ignore patterns that we already recognize. But something breaks that pattern, for example, a leopard diving out of the jungle foliage, or a brightly colored fruit that we want to eat, an attractive potential mate, that kind of thing, back in the living in the primeval forest days as you have it. These are things that broke the pattern, and that's why they capture your attention. And then you pursue or flee. That's what triggers your fight or flight responses when something breaks the pattern that you are bored with, right? So priming, back to priming. What priming is when you give people enough information to spot a pattern they've been ignoring or perhaps didn't know existed. And this happens a lot in people who go to fake psychics, for example, will sometimes have a prediction done, and the prediction primes them to look for certain things that are actually very common. But when you spot 3 common things in a row and you don't realize how common they are, and someone predicted that you would spot those things, all of a sudden they start thinking these prophecies must be true, right? That's one way it's commonly used in manipulating people. But when you're trying to sell a thing, for example, you have a product or a service that offers a solution to some problem that someone is having, right? So think of the problems that product solves, list them out in detail, and then a process that I use when I was writing copy and I teach it is to take the list of problems that your product can solve and look at 2 things. You want to look at the domino effect, which is the string of problems that this problem, if left unsolved, will just continue to, expand and affect more things in a sequence, right? So that means into the future, things will potentially be worse. And then you additionally look at what I call the ripples, like when you throw a stone in a pond, it creates ripples that radiate outwards. So if someone is having a problem in a particular area of their life, say their business or their relationships or, physical pain of some kind, these problems have ripple effects that affect the other areas of their life. So you think about how a problem you might be having at work will negatively affect your home life, as an example. Now, when you have this big list of all these problems and the places that they're encountered, you start thinking about how you can make this particular thing break the pattern in your prospect's life so that when you talk to them about it, the next time they encounter that problem, which maybe they ignore or they're not aware of, now they're going to notice it. Now they're going to remember. You're bringing these problems to the forefront, and in their mind they begin to experience them and notice them more and more, and they become more and more bothersome. And that, of course, gives them incentive to come to you and talk to you about the solution that you had mentioned that you had that can help them. That's basically how you can use priming to set people up to have an I don't want to say unconscious because they're aware of it, but they start to notice the problems that are nagging them that necessitate them to want to buy your product. And they think it's their own idea because all they're doing is using their own perception to spot these problems. And it's their own feelings that they're having in reaction to them. They don't realize that reading your material is what made them see these problems and notice them more, because we gave them the ability to notice them in a way where they break the pattern. One other way you can use priming is to think of your prospect's experience of the problem, when it happens, where it happens, what are they doing when it leads up to it, what does it feel like when they're experiencing it, what does it feel like after, to come down from whatever the problem is. And then you can tell them that story as though it's a hypothetical. And what it'll do is every detail of that story that it hits on will suddenly, they'll internalize it, right? They'll start to recognize it as a pattern. And again, it makes them encounter and think of these things more often throughout their day. For example, if you were selling a weight loss product, you could come up with a variety of encounters and scenarios throughout the day where this person bumps against a part of the world that makes them feel fat. So when you're getting dressed in the morning, when you see yourself in the mirror, when you're showering and getting ready, when you overhear a whisper waiting in line to get a coffee, when you have trouble getting in and out of your vehicle as you go about your business, when you step on an elevator and it creaks. There are a variety, a ton of different things you can do in that aspect. But what it is you call these things out as though it's a hypothetical. For example, when you're presenting it to say, here's what my experience was like. Does this sound familiar to you? And then you list off these things, and all the things that hit their checklist, that's what you're doing, is you are creating a pattern in their life for them to spot and suddenly be concerned about because they didn't know it was there. Now, use this with discretion, please, because it's very sneaky and tricky, and we ain't out there to hurt nobody. But that's it for today's tip. Have a great lunch. I'll see you tomorrow for another one of these in the Eat Me Lunchtime Persuasion Tip series. If you liked this one, be sure to hit follow and click like on the page. And hey, if you know someone that can benefit from it, please do share it with them and point them in my direction. Again, every weekday, noon Eastern, I'll be here. You'll be here. We'll have a good time. That's it for today. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.